What is going on, everybody? Kevin Calhoun here. This is the Calhoun Show. If you're new here, welcome aboard. This is a really fun show. There's a shit ton of stuff basically going on in the world. That's the long and short of it. There's a lot of things happening. Obviously, we have the NHL Stanley Cup Final happening, legitimately happening. As I sit here, it is the first intermission of game number 2. I don't know when this podcast is going to be finished throughout the evening. I've already gotten 20 minutes of the podcast done, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. But yes, it is 1-1. The dirtiest first period I've seen the Penguins be involved in a while. We saw Kunitz with a bad hit. We saw Irwin with a bad hit. We saw Ekholm with a cheap shot on Gensel. And we saw referees swallowing whistles everywhere. Oh, yeah, we saw Subban with a questionable hit on Crosby before the Kunitz hit on him. It was an interesting first period. So I don't know if I'm going to live watch and record anything tonight, but we shall see as the podcast goes along. So anyway, I told you that we have part of the podcast done already. That's because my good friend and friend of the show, former guest of the show, and founding father of the show, I think we can count him amongst the founding group of I think I would say 4 of us. Mr. Andrew Schacht, who created the logo, joined me on the podcast this week. I talked to him earlier today about the Memorial Cup. He was in Canada for the Memorial Cup. He works for one of the teams. He tells me all about it. I'll keep it a secret. How about that? Although it's in the description, so, whatever. He works for the Erie Otters, and he went to the Memorial Cup this past week and a half in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So we talked about it. We talked about the playoffs. We talked about some college hockey or junior hockey prospects that he's gotten to see play, and it was a blast. So that's coming up on the show. Obviously, the other big stories are the NBA Finals beginning Thursday night, Cavs, Warriors, and I'm not going to go out on a limb here and say something that nobody has said, but we are just vaulting ourselves into arguing for Cleveland. That's what it seems like what we're doing. So everyone was so positive, Golden State, they might win 16 straight. Maybe they beat the Cavs in 5, maybe in 6. There are the people that are definitely out there that say Cavs can win. There are people that think the Cavs are the favorites, which is insane to me. But those people are out there, so they have to be accounted for and recognized. But for the most part, Golden State is the favorite here, and it's by a lot. But the last week, by the way, if you hear that noise in the background, we are getting a big old thunderstorm here in Connecticut right now. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I don't lose power and this episode, because then what I'm saying now won't matter. Nobody will ever hear it. So anyway, so as this series approaches, we've now started to remember who LeBron James is. We've started to remember what Kyrie has done to the Warriors in the past. And now we look at the matchups and we start talking ourselves into it. And I am on the forefront of wanting to talk myself into it. I want LeBron to win. I want Cleveland to win. And I want Golden State to lose. That's, I think, the most important part. So I do like LeBron a lot. I got to see LeBron play live once, and it was amazing. So I've been a fan since then. I didn't like him before that. But after I saw him live, I was in. So not like I'm on alone on a bandwagon here. Yeah, I like LeBron James. Yeah, so does everybody else. So I want LeBron to win for his legacy, whatever that means. Now that he's in the MJ conversation magically. He wasn't in it before. He could never be in it before. Now we're arguing if he can be in the conversation, which means he's in the conversation if the conversation before was that he couldn't be a part. That makes sense? Maybe I'm crazy. Roxy's crying outside the studio door, but it just can't happen because it's thundering outside, and she'll cry inside the studio door. I feel terrible. I really do. Love you, dog. Please stay outside of the door, not outside of the house. Please stay outside of the office. So anyway, I'm not going to talk myself into Cleveland, even though I'm going to root for him. I have Golden State in 5, and I want it to be different. I think anyone picking Golden State in 7 is the ultimate hedge and is not worth your time. I think even picking Golden State in 6 is a little bit of a hedge, but I would accept it. I think picking Golden State in 4 is insane. I don't think you can tell me LeBron James and Kyrie Irving won't, or LeBron James on his own won't win a playoff game in a series. I don't believe that. I won't believe it's possible until I see it. And I don't believe I'm going to see that. So I think Golden State's a better team. I don't want them to win, but I think that having 4 of the best 12 players on the planet in your starting lineup means a lot. As shocking and hot-takey as that may sound, it matters, and they have them. So I think Golden State's going to win the series. I will root hard for Cleveland. If Cleveland can shock everybody and win game 1, then Golden State in 5 is extremely unlikely, and I'll be happy about it. So that's what I'll be. I hope my prediction goes wrong. 24 hours from right now, I'll be watching the game. So we shall see. But anyway, this has been the longest intro ever. Let's get the music and let's get this podcast started. You can follow the show on Twitter at Calhoun Show and email the show calhounshow@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to the show on YouTube. All the episodes go up in their entirety. You can follow me on Twitter at ShutUpCalhoun. You can leave a voicemail. 860-740-2119 is the number to do that. And obviously, you can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and many other places. Wherever you find podcasts. And the iTunes stuff. Rate, review. We'd love you for it. All right. We have a story that has been dominating the sports headlines now for the last 2 days, and it's obviously Tiger Woods and what happened with him. And there's 2 things that matter to me in this story. And if you branch it out, I'm sure there's a lot more. But the 2 biggest points that I've come away with so far are that this is a complete microcosm of how we cover things. Like, it just summed it up perfectly. We had all the wrong information. All the wrong information. When everyone woke up 2 days ago and listened to their morning radio show, their morning talk show, Tiger Woods was driving erratically down the street, pulled over, was drunk, refused to take a breathalyzer test, and arrested. That was hours after he was arrested. That's the story we heard all day. All day. What actually happened? The car was found, already stopped, what looked to be a slow but not exactly healthy stop for the car, so it was moving. He definitely was driving erratically, but he was not pulled over. He was in fact asleep. He did not refuse a breathalyzer test. He took 2, and both registered at a 0.00. And based on the sheets that I've seen all over the internet that are supposedly the police records, he was not combative. He was confused for sure. He was extremely incapable of passing the field sobriety test. But we had all the wrong information. So when we read things, when we react to things, when we talk about things with each other, and we are just assuming the facts, and now we're discussing the ramification of those facts, it's nice and healthy sometimes to step back and say, and I'm guilty of this too. I was talking about it all day the other day about how Tiger was out drinking and what was he doing? Was he out late doing this and that? Yeah, no, that's at least not on the alcohol part of it. And we were completely wrong. So that's the first part. The second part isn't exactly something I think that anybody needs to talk about, but it's the other important part. And that's why Tiger put himself in the situation that he put himself in. I don't think that there's any answer that we can come up with that will answer it sufficiently, because all of us know what it's like to do stupid stuff. I certainly know what it's like to do stupid stuff with substances, as far as, you know, I've drank too much and said things I shouldn't have said. That's happened way more than one time too. So I can at least understand that part of it. So unless you're there or in the person's head, or you're that person, you're not going to ever truly understand why they put themselves in that situation. But he was in that situation because he made poor choices. Now, if he was taking what was prescribed to him and he was taking it how he should have been taking it, then a doctor messed up. That seems really unlikely. It seems really unlikely that a doctor messed up and gave Tiger doses of something that mixed poorly while he was driving down the road at 3:00 in the morning. That seems really unlikely. So the obvious second part is that Tiger mixed things he shouldn't have, or took too much of something. And that part of it, I can't say anything about because I don't know. I won't even bother, because I don't think it's fair if you don't know anything about it to speculate on that kind of thing. I think it's so dangerous when you just label somebody in a situation like this, when you just don't know what happened that night. You just don't know what happened. So, unless you are absolutely positive of the circumstances that led him to be in that situation, here, all we know is that he made at least one bad choice, and that was driving with whatever was inside him. That was a horrible choice. And if he had killed somebody, this would be a way, way, way worse conversation than what it is. Thank God he didn't. We have to keep that in the back of our mind, though. So you can't completely excuse the fact that maybe this wasn't on him. But 3:00 in the morning, you're behind the wheel of the car. You probably took something you shouldn't have taken. But I can't speculate as to why, and I won't speculate as to if he has an issue. If he comes out and says he has a problem, I'll believe that Tiger Woods has a problem. If he comes out and says he doesn't have a problem, I won't know the answer, but I'm still not going to talk about it. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'd believe it. I certainly have questions, but they're not questions that, unless I could ask him, there's no point. There's just no point. So anyway, there's other stories that people wanted us to talk about. We got a few people. I think KG was the first one on it that wanted me to talk about Bryce Harper. So if you missed this, Major League Baseball had itself a little Royal Rumble action in San Francisco between the Giants and the Nationals, when what's his face Strickland throws the ball inside on Harper and hits him with a mid to high 90s, 95, 98 mile an hour fastball right on his hip. Now, a couple years ago in the playoffs, Harper took him deep twice and kind of pimped him a little bit, kind of took advantage of it a little bit. And the exception was taken. Hunter Strickland, by the way, I figured out his first name. That I was stalling a little bit. You could tell I was stalling a little bit. I found it. Hunter Strickland throws inside, hits Harper. Harper goes out, takes a couple swings, and neither of them land much clean. Jeff Samardzija pulls out his inner football player, which is nice to see that he's still capable of athletics in a successful way, as he concusses one of his teammates in the melee, just bowling balling his way through both teams as the benches evacuated or filtered out onto the field. So I'm not sure what everybody wanted me to talk about with this, but I do have one point that was brought up on Twitter, which is a really good one. So Hunter Strickland got suspended for 6 games, and Harper got suspended for 4 games. On the surface, that seems to make sense until you start thinking about what that means. In 6 games, how many innings did the Giants lose from, noted super athlete Hunter Strickland? Probably 6, right? How many innings do the Nationals lose? I don't know, the second best player on the planet? Well, 4 times 9, 36. Not good. Doesn't exactly seem fair, but I guess life's not fair. So that sucks, and that's on Major League Baseball, and that should not be the case. If Strickland gets 6 games, Harper should get 1. Balance it out. Give him 2 if you got to be a real asshole about it. But I don't like the suspensions, not the lengths. I would have gone 1 and 3. I would have given Harper a game and Strickland 3 games. It's clean, it's quick. We understand why it happened. Let's move on. Don't do it again, I guess, is the move here. They'll do it again if it happens again. So I don't know exactly what that means, but if you're Harper, you don't deserve 4 games there. I wouldn't give him 4 games. All right, I promised. Now I'll deliver. Andrew Schacht, one of my best friends in the world. Went to college with him from 2008, although I didn't know him that well. I knew him in 2008, vaguely. We had a freshman class together. He sat a couple seats behind me, but there was other people. I think he was in that class. I should have asked him. We already recorded this. I can't even ask him. I hate this. Andy, if you re-listen to this, you got to text me about that. All right. Yes, this is Andy. We're going to talk about the Memorial Cup, some NHL playoff stuff. I'm going to turn the TV on and check on the Penguins and see how they're doing. I'll talk to you guys on the other side of this. Enjoy.
The Calhoun Show.
All right, rejoining me on the podcast for the first time in a while, cashew enthusiast Andrew Schacht on the phone. Hi.
Oh, hi. Thank you. You know I love my cashews.
You are...
I'm pretty sure. Yes, it has been a while. It's been probably, like a year and a half?
I don't know. Well, we talk to each other almost every day. Andy's one of my best friends on the planet,
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't necessarily podcast together very often.
Well, I've been out of the game for a little while. Been a little busy.
You have been. So that's why Andy's here. Andy's our hockey guy anyway. But you've been doing something cool. You've been doing something, well, just like unofficially. You've been doing something cool over the last week and a half, which is attending the Memorial Cup. And first, I guess you can tell everybody why you were there.
Well, I actually work for the teams, the Erie Otters. I do the, game day presentation. I make content and graphics for them, and then get to watch all the home games. So that's fun.
So where did you go in Canada for the last week and a half?
All right, so Mem Cup was in Windsor this year. And if you don't know where that is, it's that Canadian city right on the other side of the Detroit River, across from Detroit. Oh,
really? It's that close?
Oh, yeah. If you walk down to the river, you could see downtown Detroit and whatnot.
Oh, that's actually really cool. Did you get all right, so being that close to Detroit, did you get the true, I'm in Canada feel?
Well, absolutely. You get that right away whenever you hear anyone talk.
Can I have your best impression?
Well, to a point where, I got back and someone asked me a question, and I said, I'll get to it tomorrow. I'm like, what the hell? Sorry, I've been in Canada too long.
All right, so the Otters, it was a round-robin tournament, right? And the Otters advanced through to the semis and then to the finals, where they inevitably dropped it 4-3 to, it was the home Windsor team, yes?
That is correct, which they were eliminated in the OHL playoffs by the London Knights in the first round, to which we ended up beating the London Knights in 7 games. That was like a really big game.
All right, so
a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I looked at that, and I had a question.
Okay.
Now, you explained to me how the Memorial Cup works, which is the 3 Canadian Hockey League champions play, and the host city also plays in the tournament, right?
That's correct.
So did Windsor just not care when they played London? Or was London a better team?
At the time, difficult team. Yeah, they were a really difficult team. Windsor was dealing with several injuries, And that month and a half off, I think it was, that they had, like, it gave them a lot of time to get healthy and just basically watch all the potential teams they could be playing. So, I mean, they're a bigger team. They had size on them. They were completely healthy for the tournament, which helped them greatly.
Yeah, I was thinking about that part too. That's a really weird thing with how long that layoff is.
Yeah, I imagine if they didn't make it to the playoffs, how much longer it would be. You know what I mean? So ultimately the Memorial Cup ended up being a battle between the OHL Western Conference. Two of the best teams, both Windsor and the Otters, just destroyed Seattle from the WHL and St. John from the Q.
Yeah, so that had to be a little OHL Western pride for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm like, well, that's cool. At least clearly right now the OHL, especially the Western Conference, is just better than the rest of junior hockey.
Yeah. Did you go to the other games that Erie wasn't playing in?
Yeah, all except for the first game, which I just trying to remember what it was. Windsor and St. John, where that I was still in Erie. That drove up the next morning to catch the first Erie game.
So okay, so the reason I asked that, and we'll get to the home crowd in a second. Of the other three teams, how was the crowd representation?
It was pretty good. Like, seeing fans from everywhere, so that was really cool. Downside is, I think, the ticket prices might have been a little bit too steep for some people, so it didn't really sell out till probably the last three games. But other than that, I mean, the building was still pretty full.
And the Windsor crowd had to be great. I mean, I watched it on TV.
They were, exactly. They were loud. It was fun. I didn't have run into any problems whatsoever. I can be kind of loud at games. I was cheering along and going, "Aw, crap," and swearing occasionally. That happens, but wasn't trying to be blatantly an idiot, I guess. I'm cheering for my team.
Yeah, I'm just gonna point out that you just used the words "I can be loud at games." We actually got yelled at a hockey game for being too loud.
There was swearing involved.
There was some language. There was some language.
Slightly intoxicated to a point where we all just were like, "Yeah, that was me." I'm like, "Oh wait, you really? You? Oh, okay, it was all of us. Sorry."
Yeah, and that story actually includes the third person of this entire scenario of your last week and a half, which is Mr. Aaron Cooney was at that game with us.
Absolutely, yeah. He was. Downside for him was since it's such a big tournament, obviously more in Canada than the U.S. He had to call the games for the local radio stations here, like in a corner, like kind of far away, which, I mean, that kind of sucks, but at the same time, I can only imagine what that feeling was for him to be able to call this.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty, it's pretty badass. All right, so Windsor itself, you had basically a week and a half vacation, right?
Yeah, I was available to work, but there wasn't really anything for me to do.
Yeah, so what did you do?
Well, I mean, I brought up my computers up with me in case I needed to make any graphics real quick for like social media, but I felt like we did a pretty good job of making sure we were prepared before we left, so I didn't really have to do any of that. Other than that, there was a large amount of eating and drinking, so I had a blast.
Canadian beer selection, yay or nay?
I mean, you can find anything.
Yeah, you were happy with it?
The cool thing was, went to, their beer store. Like, okay, well, I'll just stop in here, see what I can find. Found a 4-pack of, like, Le Fin du Monde for super cheap. It's so much more expensive here.
I don't even know what that is.
Or the U.S.
Yeah, that one's new. That one's new on me. I don't know that one.
Oh, that's a hell of a Belgian. Let me tell you.
a hell of a Belgian.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the Memorial Cup was great. Obviously, the Otters winning would have been the ideal outcome, but
yeah. Well, the way I look at it, it was you won the real championship.
True.
The idea is to win both your league and the Memorial Cup. But if you only win the Memorial Cup, it doesn't seem as good. Although, like, the format's different, could benefit you, could, be your curse. I honestly think that was, you go through the entire playoffs, you're so used to playing a series, and then all of a sudden it changes on you. That can hurt you.
Yeah, and Windsor wasn't really going through it, right? Because they were off for a month and a half. They were mentally prepared for 1 to 2 game sprints for a month going into it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's before what you got something else?
I don't know, maybe.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm good. Go
oh, okay. I thought you were going to start something. All right, so before we go, we're sitting here. Obviously, when this comes out tomorrow, Game 2 will be in the books. What did you take away from Game 1 with the Penguins? 38 minutes without a shot, but they get the 5 goals. What did you take away?
Well, one of the few games I've actually been able to watch all of. Luckily, I've been able to watch most of the playoffs this year. Yesterday, it's really weird. No, what I gathered is the Pens actually played probably maybe 10 minutes of hockey, to be honest with you. Although at the same time, the second period was the worst, and after that, it seemed like they were still able to keep Nashville from getting any really crazy good chances.
Yep.
Which I was still impressed with. I'm like, okay, you're kind of tying them up, holding them up a bit here, but it's only going to last for so long. And obviously, the game was tied. Yeah. So that was one of the biggest things I took away from it. And I thought it might have been more of, I don't know, maybe they're still on a bit of a high from winning the East, and it's just one of those. It's just one of those things that I definitely see them looking like a different team tonight. Well,
you would hope
when this comes out tomorrow or yesterday.
Yeah, I hope so. We're sitting here. What is it? 2 hours until puck drop for the game.
Yeah.
It was nostalgic for me. I'm sure you enjoyed it. A nice Penguin game with James Neal taking a terrible penalty.
Yes, exactly. Did we talk about that last night? Yeah, because we definitely did.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, there he goes, just being James Neal. That was unnecessary.
I can't remember. I was going to ask you if it was you. It might have been. There's some people at work with the Bluefish that are big hockey people too. So I don't know who I was talking to, but we were joking before the series started about how if Neal found himself on the ice with Malkin and Kunitz at the same time, he'd freak out and start beating up Predators players to protect Malkin.
Maybe. Yeah, just lose his shit. Really.
So it was really funny that it took less than a period of the first game to get a terrible James Neal penalty that helps the Penguins.
And that was the biggest thing. That last 10 minutes of the first period were just ridiculous forecheck by the Penguins. It was some of the craziest things it just didn't leave the zone for a very long time. So it made sense that they got a 3-0 lead from that, and then they just didn't keep it up. They had they tried to work it up the boards a lot, and Nashville was probably one of the best teams I've seen to clog up the boards, and with that, actually, get bodies on bodies and pucks, and just take away the guy that has the puck, and there's someone right behind them to pick it up. I'm really impressed with how their structure is, because obviously them being in the West, I haven't really gotten to see too many of their games.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I feel like, and I've seen most of what I've seen of Nashville in the playoffs, obviously, but it comes across to me like this is going to be the first series where the Penguins are going to really miss Letang a lot, because that ability to move the puck against like 4 really good. It's definitely something I was talking about at work, is if Letang played in this series, he'd be the best defenseman in this series, right? Without Letang in this series, the Penguins have the 5th best defenseman, and you can pick whoever their best one is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a huge drop.
Absolutely. It's something they've been working through this entire playoffs.
True. Yeah, that's fair.
So, I mean, you overcome the Capitals, which, well, they're picked to be the favorite to win the Cup virtually every year. And it doesn't seem to happen. And they were a stacked team, too.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's all about, whether your system that your coaches set up work against the other team, and being able to adjust appropriately when they aren't working, and it's really up to the coaching staff and obviously the players to buy in.
Yeah. All right. So I have one more thing, and this is because I know there are a few people listening to this podcast that actually love hockey and love the small little things about hockey. So before you go, why don't you tell us about 1 or 2 players that you watched in the last week and a half play? You could just pick Otters if you'd like, that we're going to talk about in the NHL.
Okay, well, actually, I'll start with Mikhail Sergachev for Windsor, who actually played a few games for Montreal at the beginning of the season. That is a big guy. He can move. He can move the puck, and I'm really happy with the future that Montreal is going to have on defense, especially at this point. Andre Markov's kind of up there. I know I've been saying this for a couple of years.
Well, it's okay. You got PK Subban for 10 more years, right?
yeah, of course. Thanks. But I mean, that's huge. I mean, like I said, you have Markov, who is definitely at the ladder of his career. I honestly, over the past few years, like, he was never like the fastest guy, but he knew his positioning well. And you could just see his legs slowing down, and that's what happens whenever you like tear like all your ACLs like 80 times.
Yeah, you should avoid that, actually.
Yeah. But so that's one player that I was really excited to be able to see compete. Who obviously I've seen a few times with the Otters playing Windsor just in the regular season. Yeah. And so that was cool to see that guy. It also got me a chance to see another player that's Montreal prospect for Windsor, Jeremiah Edison, who actually had a hat trick against the Otters for one of the last preliminary games. So that was pretty cool. Walking into the building that Wednesday, and it's like, oh, that's Marc Bergevin over there. I talked to him, but he's talking to people in French, and I don't know that.
Yes, the Marc Bergevin. I can't believe I forgot to get the Marc Bergevin sighting in on this.
Yeah, I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah, that's like the that was that your big headliner for who you saw around Windsor?
Yeah, I think so. I walked by Darcy Tucker and just like, get out of my way, you freaks. I want to get a beer and get to my seat.
Hey, look, it's Darcy Tucker. Where's the beer again?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was. And then I'll touch on, obviously, because I don't know, I didn't really know like the Seattle or St. John players very well, and just watching them, like I'm just like, I didn't have like a roster sheet in front of me, so I didn't pay attention to them that much.
Yeah, that's fair.
But as far as like with Otters players go, it's going to be a different team next year. Obviously, we have so many overagers that could potentially be back, so those guys will either be cut before the season starts in training camp, or they'll be moved for draft picks or younger players, because the Otters are just going to be in that rebuilding mode. But I mean, that game against St. John, I think it was Monday of last week, was just ridiculous. 12 goals.
Yeah, that was the 12-3 game.
Yeah. Well, 12-5.
Oh, 12-5. Okay.
Yeah, that was the final. But it was just crazy. Dylan Strome set a record for most points in a Memorial Cup game. The team set a record for most goals in a Memorial Cup game. So that was just crazy.
Yeah.
It was a weird game to see.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, that think we're talking about teams that are completely made up, the Otters had one person that most people have heard of in the last few years.
I mean,
there's been a few.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Dylan Strome's probably like the biggest one right now, and you could make the argument that he's actually the best Otter player there ever was, because he honestly holds a crap ton of records now.
Oh, he broke some McDavid stuff?
Well, that was the weird thing. McDavid didn't really have any records.
Really?
I can't remember any specifically. He has a few miscellaneous things, and there's no denying the talent he has, obviously. But a lot of the records that were held by were from players early in the Otters, franchise history, Brad Boyes had all-time points, which were broken by both Strome and Alex DeBrincat, who, as you know, is a prospect of Chicago.
Yep.
And then Campoli had the record for most points by a defenseman, and then most points by a defenseman in a season. And overager Darren Radish, brother to Taylor Radish, broke that. And Taylor Radish is considered the better of the two.
It's pretty nice.
But this is it's really, I think this is why I'm really enjoying my time in junior hockey. Is you see so much talent roll through, and it's holy crap, this kid could be something, or or you see the hype, you just see the hype around a player, and just watch them live up to it is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, you're gonna see a DeBrincat versus Radish in a Stanley Cup Final for two miscellaneous teams 7 years from now, and you'll be like, "Hey, look at those guys!"
Yeah, well, I mean that's what's cool is I think all three of the Tampa Bay prospects, Eric Chernak, who was initially L.A., but he was dealt to Tampa Bay for the Bishop trade. And then you have Anthony Cirelli, who the Otters acquired from Oshawa, who won the Memorial Cup. He actually had the overtime game winner for the final, when he was a rookie in the OHL.
Yeah.
And then Taylor Radish. I believe all of them got called up to basically be up in Syracuse with the
Crunch.
The Crunch.
The Crunch.
Tampa Bay affiliate, because they're in the final. It'd be interesting to see if they actually get to play. Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. By the way, I blame Steve Yzerman for all that Jonathan Drouin bullshit for the fact that I know who the Syracuse Crunch are. I'm so mad that that's occupying space in my head. All right, Andy, as always, a gigantic thank you for all the logos that you do. And
you're welcome. I guess I'll do some more for you sometime.
Yeah, I keep teasing something on this podcast over the last 4 weeks, and Andy is somehow involved, believe it or not.
Slightly, just a little.
Yeah, just a little bit. All right, Andy. Thank you, sir.
You got it, buddy. Talk to you later.
Later.
The Calhoun Show.
Oh, and a lovely job, as always, done by my buddy, Andrew Schacht. Thank you, sir, for joining the podcast. Want to say a quick hello to a podcast friend and listener and former contributor a few times to this podcast. Saw him the other day. RJ Kaufman. What's up, dude? You tweet at the show a lot, and it was good to see you the other day. Down in Bridgeport. Speaking of Bridgeport, my job is going good, guys. It's fun. I signed autographs today for kids, which is the silliest thing ever because I'm the on-field host for the Bridgeport Bluefish. I'm not a famous person, but when you have a microphone and there's little kids everywhere, so on Wednesdays we have Wednesday morning games. So Usually it's a doubleheader. Today was just the one, and it was at 10:30 this morning. And I guess there was 20 different schools there, and the groups range from like 10 people to like 30 people. I'm gonna sneeze. Hold on, I gotta pause. All right, I hope that didn't sound clunky, but I really had to sneeze, and I sneezed really loud. So the groups range in size from like 20 people to like 300 kids or whatever. So there's a boatload of kids at this game, and it makes my job really fun and easy because they're super into whatever we're doing. I saw one of the funniest things I've seen the other night at work. We do a bunch of different promotions. I've told you guys about this before. So one of the promotions that we do is it's the only promotion that we have that is for people. I think it's 18 or over. We won't do it with kids because we don't want them to hurt themselves. We do a version. I know the people my age for sure know what Dizzy Bat is. We do a version of Dizzy Bat. Obviously, we do it sans the drinking, but I would be lying if I said that when the selection process is happening for the participants in this, perhaps we will stumble upon somebody who's had a beverage or two. Makes the game fun. So, hey, Independent League Baseball, we're here for fun. So, Dizzy Bat in our version is they take the bat, they just face down, I count to 8 on the mic, and the whole crowd counts to 8. And then they run up the third base line to the mascot. Sounds pretty simple. When we do this, we bring the whole promo staff down. I didn't understand why we brought the whole promo staff down for this until 2 nights ago when the Dizzy Bat participant, maybe it was last night. I guess it was 2 nights ago. The Dizzy Bat participant, one of them, he had a couple of drinks. He had a couple of wobbly pops over the course of the evening. And by the way, I told you guys I was going to put the game on. 15 minutes left in the second period, still 1-1. He'd had a couple, and they spun aggressively. I mean, it's an 8 count, and they got a lot in on the 8 count there. They time management on they were on top of it. So they come out and they start, and we're in the grass. If you're standing on home plate facing the pitcher's mound, we're in the grass kind of off to your left, just outside the line on the third base side, because the players are on the field warming up. So they're running up the baseline, and they come out of the spins, and the guy closest to the baseline comes out wobbly, but he finds his bearings and he gets up the line. The guy on the left, he finds his bearings. He gets up the line about halfway. When he gets halfway, I don't know what broke. It wasn't a bone or a ligament of any kind. There was no pain involved. But I don't know if it was his spirit or if it was the brain connectivity to like his left knee, but all of a sudden we took a hard left turn. It was NFL Combine, like, wow, look at the lateral movement type juking I'm talking about here. And he turned left, and this is when I learned why the whole promo staff comes down. The whole promo staff comes down to stand in front of the dugout because he turned left, and one of our promo interns is standing there, and he's a smaller, shorter kid, probably, I don't know, 5'8", maybe a buck 40, roughly, maybe smaller. And here comes this dude who's bigger than that. Hard left turn, down goes the intern, a beautiful form tackle. But it was like a Randy Orton meme from out of nowhere. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're out and they're up the line, and oh my God, how did that just happen? It was something. It was something else. But yeah, no, we had a blast today, and had some fun, and I got a chance to mingle. So this is I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast or not. I think when I was talking to Stephanie maybe, but this job has been funny because I've never really liked kids that much, and I've never spent much time around them, and I certainly haven't spent much time talking to them. So like this has been a completely new experience in that way. I've been trying to learn like how to interact with kids, because that's more than half of my job basically is half the innings I've got, one of the promotions I want to pump up to the crowd, or one of the things that we're doing post game that I got to get out to the crowd, or hyping the app because we have a giveaway that's coming if you go on the app and do this or that. That's half the job. And the other half is the entertainment side, which is, the kids' games, which is, they're on the field, they're running around the bases with the mascot, they're playing a game in the crowd, throwing tennis balls, that kind of thing. And so I've had the chance to learn how to talk to kids. And today I was down waiting for the end of I think it was the 8th inning, to go out on the field behind home plate and talk to the crowd about one of the things that we were doing post game. And I went down there with one out, and I was standing in the little bay. There's like a little, the little 3-step stair through the doorway next to the dugout, and you're out in the dirt. I go through those doors all day long, in and out, off the field, on the field, off the field. And I go down there with one out, and it was just one of those innings, and it was a good inning for us. We put up a ton of runs, but it took forever. The bottom of the 8th took forever. Luckily for me, I wasn't just standing there leaning on the top of the dugout. Instead, I had a group of kids next to me, probably 10, 15 kids, all boys, all between. I'm so terrible at this because I don't spend much time around children, but I'm guessing so everyone between 7 and 12 would be my estimation. And I mean, I've never answered as many questions in my whole life, because this inning took 30 minutes. And there's no point in leaving, because a double play, all of a sudden I'm on the other side of the stadium and not ready to go on the field. There's no getting out. So the reason that this was a little tedious, it was hysterical in a bunch of other ways. But the reason it was a little tedious was that one of the things that we do is after the game, we do something called the post-game pitch, where we put hula hoops out on the field. And we have bags of tennis balls, and they've all got numbers on them, and they've all got tickets that come with the tennis balls in the bag with the numbers that are on the tennis balls written on the tickets. So we put 4 hula hoops on the field. They all represent different prizes. You go buy tennis balls. You throw the tennis balls at the hula hoops after the game. And if you roll your tennis ball in, we read off all the winning numbers. You check your tickets. If you had one of the balls, you're a winner. You go to the prize shop and either pick up something small, or we actually have some really, really awesome ones too. If you get the one at second base, it hasn't happened yet this year. If you hit the hula hoop at second base, you actually win a suite, one of, really nice suites there too, to a home game for a night. So anyway, I was going out on the field to go behind home plate to remind the crowd of the post-game pitch, to go get the tennis balls, remind them, how much it is for a bag, or how much it is for one ball, and all that stuff. And so I've got the bag of tennis balls with me. So now I've got all the kids, can I have a ball? 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 And I mean, I wouldn't normally care. I mean, it's not my money, so I can't give them away. But, if it was easy enough, I would. So they're asking for the balls, and I'm trying to explain to them. I'm like, guys, they've all got numbers on them, and they all come with tickets, and they're all tied up in the bag with the tickets. So there's, unless you guys are all going to buy a ball, $1 at a time, there's nothing we can do. Which was a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to say. I never should have said that, because then the search was on. Everybody needed $1. So the whole first 3-4 rows of this section, it was dollar search time. And I had 5 tennis balls with me. I got 3 of them. 3 kids came back with $1. The rest of them were just asking questions. They wanted, whether it was the baseballs or the bats from the players. There was 2 of them that could not fathom why I could not just ask the manager of the opposing team, who was about 4 feet away from me on the other side of the fence, why I could not ask that guy for a couple of baseballs after he signed them. They're like, can you just ask him to sign a couple of baseballs for us? And I was like, well, he's the manager of the other team. And it's the 8th inning, and his team is melting down. They've given up 4 runs this inning so far. Boy, I didn't say any of this, and I was just thinking, boy, he probably doesn't want to be bothered. Certainly by the guy who's been walking in front of his dugout all night in the way, blocking his players as I mosey around with the promo staff throwing stuff at the crowd. I can't bother that guy. So that was a hard thing to fathom. But then my favorite part of the whole day, my favorite part of today was we have a bunch of kids that are high schoolers that through their high school, they have an internship program. And they kind of, are filling, where you're needed. And one of them was the kid who grabs the bats and the balls and whatever. So he gets a uniform and runs back and forth behind home plate. Not a normal thing, but it was like a 10:30 in the morning game. I don't know. The normal kid that does it wasn't there. So he got called into service. So while I'm standing down here and I'm talking to the kids, and we're 25 minutes into this experience now that this half inning's been going on, that I've just been in this little gully with, 7 kids leaning over the railing over my shoulder asking me stuff. And Will is sitting on the field right in front of us. I could throw my pen and just underhand basically toss it into his lap. And the kids are asking me after the game, can you get one of the players to sign our baseballs? And I was like, probably not. The teams, they run on the field. If they win, they all high five. They all go in the locker room and they all want to shower. They all want to leave. They don't stick around unless they have, the pre-planned autograph stuff. Plus, I don't know any of the players. So, I can't just go be like, hey, we're pals. Come on out. I haven't met the players. I've only been there, 15 times so far. So anyway, I'm like, nah, that's probably not going to happen. And then he asks, well, what about number 7? Can number 7 sign my baseball? And this kid was, 5. And it was adorable. And he needed a signature. He's like, can number 7? And I was thinking, I don't, who's number 7 for us? And then I looked over the railing to, 4 feet away from me, and I see Will sitting there watching the at-bat happen, sitting there wearing number 7. He's got a uniform on. They gave him a uniform for the game. And I was like, you know what? I bet you I can get number 7 to sign that baseball for you. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I did something mean to have a not player sign it. It seemed like the right thing to do. Like, he wanted a signature. He got one from somebody in a uniform. He's never going to be able to read it, and he's never going to Google who it was. I thought it was fun. And Will's asking me, he's like, can I sign this? He gave me a baseball to sign. I was like, yeah, why not? You get a uniform on. He thinks you're Barry Bonds as far as he knows. It's fine. It should be cool. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of a cute story. The kid was all jazzed up because he got number 7's autograph. So yeah, that was work today. But thank you again to Andy for coming on the show. I'm going to be sitting here rooting hard for the Penguins for the rest of the night. And thank you to, if you missed last week's episode of the show, thank you to Mark St. Lawrence. If you did miss last week's episode, we were talking NHL playoffs. We talked a lot about concussions, wins and losses as a fan. There was some mascot talk snuck in. And then 2 weeks ago, we had Brett Zanardi on the podcast. So three people I really enjoy doing shows with the last 3 weeks between Andy, Mark, and Brett. So thank you to those guys for helping out with the podcast. And I will talk to you guys next week. I'm going to see if I can get this uploaded before the thunderstorm wipes us away. All right. See you guys later. Oh, and spoiler alert. If you are wondering about Andy's introduction, just hang out until the end of the podcast. Like the very end. Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Calhoun Show. Join the conversation by following the show on Twitter @Calhoun Show and emailing the show at calhounshow@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe and download for free on iTunes. Want to hear yourself on the show? Leave us a voicemail by calling 860-740-2119.
Yeah, you good? How are your cashews?
Oh, well, there's a little bit in my teeth, but
The last 10 seconds is absolutely the end of this episode.
awesome. Dude, the cashews are delicious.
I missed the most of that, but I got the end of it.
Me just going, oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Awesome.
Shit. All right, here we go.